Sometimes silence isn't revenge. It's a reset, a quiet rebuild that transforms you into someone they can no longer reach. They allowed you to slip away, my friend, but what they didn't realize is that you were never slipping. You were rising, quietly, calmly, powerfully. The moment you stopped chasing was the beginning of their silent downfall. They thought they were the ones walking away from you. They believed they had the upper hand. But the truth is, you were the one letting go, not out of bitterness, but because you were done. Done proving, done waiting, done being the one who holds the door open while they decide whether to walk in or walk out. You didn't just walk away, you walked forward, and now they are the ones stuck watching you from a distance they created while you never tried to close. Hey folks, imagine this. You're holding a glass of water, not too heavy. Right now, hold it for an hour, a day, a week. It doesn't matter how light it is, eventually your arm's going to go numb. That's what it's like holding on to someone who has already let you go. At first, you think you can manage, but the longer you hold on, the more it hurts. Meanwhile, they are out there living as if you are an option they can pick back up whenever they want. As if your love is a save point in a video game, always there, always waiting, always ready to load. But you're not a save point. You're the whole damn story. Let's break the lie right now. They didn't accidentally lose you. No, they made a choice, 100 little choices, not to show up, to pull back, to ignore the effort you kept pouring in. They thought you'd always be there, that even if they let you slip away, you'd orbit back like a loyal moon. But you weren't orbiting. You were evolving. You weren't waiting. You were waking up. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And that's what you did. You stopped trying to convince them that you were worth choosing. You started becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be chosen to feel worthy. That's stoic payback, not pettiness, not revenge, just pure elevation. The funny part, they don't even realize what they've lost until you stop making noise. That's when the silence gets heavy. That's when your absence starts echoing. When you were present, they didn't see your value, but now that you're gone, it hits them quietly, slowly, regretfully. You didn't chase, you didn't argue, you didn't beg, you let them stay gone. And that's the move they never saw coming. Not the emotional meltdown, not the "please come back" text, but your stillness, your strength, your silence. That's what rattles them. People expect chaos when they leave. They expect fireworks, closure, drama. But you gave them none of it. Just peace, just clarity, just your back turned as you walked into a better version of yourself. So, to everyone watching this, if someone let you slip away and you had the courage to let them stay gone, type it in the comments right now. I let them stay gone. Say it like truth, like power, like a promise to your future self. And if this message resonates with you, smash that like button, subscribe, and stay with me. We're not done yet. This is just the beginning of your rise, your clarity, your peace, your legacy. One they let you slip through thinking you'd return. They don't regret letting you go until they realize you're not one of those people who circles back. They thought you'd come back. Simple as that. When they let you go, it wasn't with fear, it was with assumption. Assumption that you'd reach out again. Assumption that your silence was temporary, that your heart was still on layaway. They didn't think they were losing you. They thought they were testing you, like walking away was some kind of emotional experiment, just to see if you'd chase, beg, bleed a little to prove you still cared. But my friend, you didn't play their game. You didn't orbit, you didn't text, you didn't stay emotionally available. You walked and you never turned around. That's when it hit them, not right away, but slowly, like a light fading that they didn't realize they needed until the dark got real. Imagine this. You're holding a balloon filled with helium, floating gently above your hand. Now imagine you let it go. You think it'll hover nearby, stay within reach, maybe float back down eventually. But what you forget is that once it's gone, it keeps rising further and further until it's just a dot in the sky. That was you. They let go, thinking you'd stay within reach, but you didn't drop. You ascended. Still, I get it. I know the kind of thoughts that sneak into your mind when the nights get too quiet. What if I'm the one being dramatic? What if I misunderstood them? What if they're just confused and need time? That's the fear talking, the voice we were taught to trust growing up. The one that says love means holding on even when it hurts. That walking away makes you the bad guy. But let me tell you the truth. They didn't want you to learn. Real love doesn't need testing. Real love doesn't feel like waiting in pain, hoping someone finally sees you. They let you go, thinking they could come back when they were ready. But this isn't a hotel, and your heart isn't a reservation they forgot to cancel. This is your life, your soul, your peace, and they gambled it like it was an old sweatshirt they'd left behind, figuring they could pick it up later. But what they didn't expect was that you'd throw the whole closet out and redesign your life without them. You see, they thought your silence was strategy, that you were just giving them time, that maybe you were playing the game too. But the longer the silence went on, the more they realized it wasn't a pause. It was a decision, a boundary. And boundaries, oh, they don't know how to handle those. Because when you've been someone's emotional safety net, the moment you remove yourself, they fall. Not because you pushed them, but because they never learned how to stand without you. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And that's exactly what you did. You didn't retaliate. You didn't try to make them jealous. You didn't turn your healing into a public performance. You chose the higher path, the harder one, the one where you rise so silently, so far, that by the time they realize what they've lost, you're no longer in the same realm to reach. Yes, it was hard. Of course it was. Walking away when you still care, that's not weakness, that's discipline, that's courage. That's a level of strength most people never develop because they're too afraid of letting go of the potential of someone. Not the reality, but the potential, the fantasy. But you, my friend, stopped chasing fantasies and started choosing facts. And the fact is, they let you go and you didn't chase. That's stoic payback. Not explosive, not loud, just real, just quiet, just undeniable. So let the world know right now. Let them know in the comments. Say it for the version of you that almost reached out. Say it for the heart that waited too long. Say it like it's truth branded into your soul. I didn't go back. Type it, own it, show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that you're no longer circling back for people who never knew your worth. When you were standing right in front of them, stay with me. Because what's coming next? That's where we go deeper. That's where you don't just leave them behind. You elevate beyond their reach. It gets better, clearer, stronger from here. You didn't just walk away, you walked without bitterness. The strongest revenge is no revenge, just silence, peace, and a version of you they'll never get access to again. You didn't walk away angry. That's what messes with them the most. You didn't lash out. You didn't explode. You didn't start a fight just to get the last word. No, you walked, calm, centered, quiet. And that's silence, that's stillness. That's what hits harder than any outburst ever could. Because they were expecting drama, they were waiting for the flood, they were bracing for fireworks, but you didn't give them a storm. You gave them a sunset, soft, final, unapologetically beautiful. See, most people think walking away has to be loud to be real. They think it needs to be backed by a long paragraph, a dramatic goodbye, or a final message saying, you'll regret this. But you knew better. You didn't walk away to prove anything. You walked because you were done. Not bitter, just better. Not heartless, just healed. And the moment they realized you weren't coming back with some emotional display, that's when they felt the weight of your absence for the first time. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a cliff, holding a rope. On the other end, they're dangling, not in danger, just refusing to climb. You keep tugging, trying to pull them up, wasting your strength on someone who won't help themselves. And one day, you just let go. Not to hurt them, not to punish them, but because you finally saw the truth. You were holding them up while they drained you dry. That rope, that was your energy, your hope, your peace. And when you let go, they didn't fall because you pushed. They fell because they never stood on their own to begin with. Let's break one of the biggest lies out there, the idea that being peaceful means you don't care. No, my friend, it means you do care. You care about your sanity, you care about your future, you care about your energy, you care enough not to let chaos live rent-free in your mind. See, they thought your silence meant you were struggling, but your silence, that was your boundary, that was your growth, that was you choosing not to play in the mud just to prove you were clean. Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable." And that's exactly what you showed. You didn't let their distance provoke you. You didn't let their silence pull you into desperation. You stayed composed. You stayed still. And in a world that thrives on reaction, that's the real shock, the real disruption. They expected noise. You gave them nothing. And that silence, that's when their own mind starts talking to them. That's when regret creeps in. That's when your peace becomes the punishment. But let's be honest here. It wasn't easy. It never is. Walking away quietly when you've still got love in your heart, that's a special kind of strength. Because there's a part of you that wants to be understood, that wants to be heard, that wants to scream, "I gave you everything, and you still walked." But instead of screaming, you chose stillness. You chose control. You chose to let your growth speak louder than your pain. And that's why you win. Not because you played the game better, but because you stopped playing altogether. The truth is, they're going to remember that. They're going to replay the moment you didn't react. They're going to feel the echo of the message you never sent. They're going to realize that the real loss wasn't your words, it was your presence. And by then, you'll be too far ahead to hear their apology, not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew the level where their voice could reach you. So say it right now. Drop it in the comments. Say it for the version of you that almost replied, that almost sent that final message, that almost begged to be seen. Say it for the strength it took to stay silent when your heart was screaming. Type it loud and clear. I walked with peace. Let it be a stamp, a declaration, a boundary. Show them, show yourself, show the world around you that walking away doesn't have to come with noise. It can come with freedom. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when we talk about the reaction they expected but never got. That's where it really starts to sink in. That's where your stillness becomes their storm. Let's go deeper. They waited for a reaction, but you gave them a reality check. The moment you stopped reacting is the moment they lost control over you, and they feel it in the silence they never prepared for. They were waiting for something, maybe not right away, but eventually, a message, a slip-up, a signal, anything. They expected your silence to be temporary, a cool down, a pause, a part of the game. Because that's what most people do when they're hurting. They break the silence eventually. They throw out a just checking in text. They view a story. They leave a like. They reach out in the smallest ways just to prove they still care. But you didn't reach. You didn't fold. You didn't give them the moment they were silently hoping for. You didn't come back with an apology for how you reacted. You didn't respond to their half-efforts. You didn't play along. You gave them the one thing their ego wasn't built to handle. Nothing, just peace, just distance. just the reality of your absence without the usual reassurance that you were still emotionally available. Imagine a phone ringing over and over with no answer. At first, the caller assumes you're busy. Then maybe you're asleep. Then maybe you're upset. But eventually, it clicks. You're not picking up because you don't want to. That realization, that's the emotional earthquake. Because people who are used to controlling the narrative expect a reaction. That's how they measure their worth, their power. And when you don't give them that emotional spike, they don't know what to do with themselves. Let's be real. There were moments you thought about it. Moments where you hovered over their name, where your thumb almost hit send, where your heart begged for just one reply, just one small opening to be heard. Because silence can be loud. And when you're hurting, your mind plays tricks on you. Maybe I should say something. Maybe they're waiting for me to make the first move. Maybe they just don't know how I feel. But let's kill that lie right here. They knew. They knew how you felt. They knew what they were doing. And they were waiting to see if you'd react to confirm they still had access. Not love, not commitment, access. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's what you discovered in your silence. You stopped giving power to what you couldn't control, and you started owning what was always yours. Your mind, your energy, your focus. That's when things changed. That's when the power dynamic shifted. Because the one who can stay calm while the other expects chaos, that's the one who's in control. And don't get it twisted. They noticed. Maybe not publicly, maybe they didn't say it out loud. But trust me, they noticed. They noticed you didn't flinch. They noticed you didn't orbit. They noticed your energy was no longer circling their world. And that's when the silence started feeling different. Not peaceful, but threatening. Because your peace doesn't just show that you've moved on, it shows that they no longer affect you. And for someone who relied on your reactions to feel important, that's devastating. They wanted attention. You gave them absence. They wanted confusion. You gave them clarity. They wanted control. You gave them detachment. That's the real reality check. That's what they weren't ready for. Because when someone is used to chaos, calm feels like rejection. And when someone is used to controlling your emotions, your indifference feels like betrayal. Yes, it took strength. Strength to stay silent, strength to not look back, strength to not react even when your heart wanted closure or clarity or just one last moment of connection. But instead of chasing those fleeting things, you chose something better. You chose your power. You chose your peace. You chose to become unshakable. So let's stamp that right now. Say it in the comments like a vow. I gave peace, not reaction. Say it for the nights you almost broke. Say it for the version of you that thought you had to explain yourself. Say it for your future. Because from this moment forward, your silence isn't confusion, it's your clarity. And don't go anywhere, because next, that's when they realize the space they asked for became a world where they no longer exist. The silence. Oh, it's just getting started. Stay with me. It only gets stronger from here. You let them stay gone, not from spite, but from wisdom. You didn't leave to hurt them. You left because staying would have kept hurting you. They didn't believe you would do it. Not really. They didn't think you'd actually let them go. They thought your silence was a phase, that you'd circle back once the loneliness kicked in, that maybe you'd reach out with some excuse to start the conversation again. Just wanted to check in or hope you're okay. That's how most people move, fueled by emotion, weakness, habit. But you, my friend, did something different, something rare. You let them stay gone, not out of hate, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, out of understanding, out of wisdom. See, there's a lie people love to believe, that if you don't fight to keep someone, you never cared. But it's not true. In fact, sometimes the strongest form of love is release. Letting them walk and not chasing, letting them disappear and not following. That's not weakness, that's not bitterness, that's knowing your worth. That's choosing your soul over your pride. That's realizing that if someone could let you slip away so easily, they were never really holding you to begin with. Imagine this. You're holding onto a rope and on the other end, they're dangling, unsure, pulling back and forth. They tell you they're confused, that they need space, that they're not sure what they want. For a while, you grip tighter. You try to steady the tension. You try to hold it together. But eventually, you look at your own hands, bleeding, trembling, and realize something terrifying and freeing at the same time. You're the only one still holding on. So you let go, not to see them fall, but to finally feel free. That's what you did. You didn't react with rage. You didn't send paragraphs. You didn't launch into blame. You simply chose yourself. And trust me, they felt that. Because they were expecting your silence to be emotional manipulation, not emotional mastery. They thought you were waiting, but you were healing. They thought you were pausing, but you were moving. They thought you'd eventually knock on the door again, but you never even looked back at the house. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And you, in your stillness, in your restraint, became your own master. You didn't need to show them what they lost. You didn't need to make a scene to prove you were hurt. You just let them walk and kept walking in your own direction. That takes more strength than people realize, because everything in you wanted to be understood. Everything in you wanted to be heard. But instead of feeding that desire, you fed your discipline. And sure, there were nights when the silence felt too loud, when the ache showed up uninvited, when you asked yourself, did I do the right thing? But every time you felt the urge to reach out, you reminded yourself, you're not someone who needs to be begged for. You're not someone who should be kept on standby, waiting to be chosen. You deserve consistency. You deserve presence. You deserve someone who never lets you slip through their fingers in the first place. They might never admit it, but they felt the shift. They noticed you didn't chase. They noticed the door stayed shut. And now they are left with the echo of their own decision. Because when someone shows you they don't value your presence, the most powerful thing you can do is stop offering it. So say it with me. Write it in the comments below like you mean it. Not for them, for you. For the version of you that almost reopened the door. For the part of you that wanted closure. For the new you that knows silence is strength. Type this now. I let them stay gone. Let it be your badge, your boundary, your breakthrough. And stay close, because what's coming next, that's where we go even deeper. That's where the silence doesn't just protect your peace. It starts building your power. Keep going. You're just getting started. You didn't chase closure, you became it. The most powerful kind of closure is the one you give yourself, without permission, without explanation, and without them. Let's get this straight, my friend. You didn't wait for an apology. You didn't sit around hoping for some perfectly timed message that said, "Hey, I get it now." You didn't beg for answers or obsess over why they changed. And that right there, that's what separates you. Because you stopped looking for closure in their words and found it in your own silence. They thought you'd reach out just to get some peace, that maybe eventually you'd crack. Ask them why. Ask them what went wrong. Ask them if they ever cared. But you didn't. You stopped asking questions to someone who already gave you the answer with their actions. You stopped hoping for clarity from someone who thrived on confusion. You didn't chase closure because deep down you knew you were the closure. Imagine standing in front of a locked door. You knock, you wait, you listen, but nothing. Silence. And most people, they stay there, hoping the lock will magically open, hoping someone will come back and explain why it was closed in the first place. but not you. You didn't waste your life at closed doors. You turned around. You picked a new direction. You built a new home somewhere they'll never be invited. That's the difference. It's not that you didn't want closure, it's that you realized real closure doesn't come from a message. It comes from a moment, that moment when you finally say, "This is over, and I don't need them to confirm it." That moment when your peace outweighs your curiosity. That moment when you stop needing to be understood and start needing to be free. Let's break the lie they fed you. The one that says healing means confrontation, that you need one last talk to move on, that closure has to come in the form of a conversation. But you and I both know sometimes that conversation never comes. Sometimes people ghost. Sometimes they leave quietly. Sometimes they just stop showing up. And the worst part? You're left trying to explain their silence to your own heart. But you didn't get lost in that trap. You didn't chase a conclusion, you became the conclusion. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's where your strength came from. You didn't try to control how they left or why they left, or if they'd come back with closure in their hands. You focused on what was within your control, your reaction, your peace, your path. And that's where you won. Because let's be real, it's hard. It's hard walking away without getting the answers you wanted. It's hard falling asleep with unfinished stories spinning through your mind. It's hard to accept that the ending you hoped for won't happen. But healing doesn't need a perfectly wrapped ending. It needs truth. And the truth was, they walked away. That's all the closure you needed. There's this moment after you stop chasing closure where everything goes quiet. It's not immediate peace, it's this strange, empty stillness. You might wonder if you gave up too soon, if you should have fought harder. But then something clicks. You realize that you weren't looking for them. You were looking for yourself. And now, you found you. You weren't bitter, you weren't cold. You were just done. Done waiting, done wondering, done trying to make sense of people who couldn't even make sense of themselves. And in that decision, you grew. Not just stronger, but wiser. You learned to give yourself the final word without speaking it. So do it now. Type it in the comments. Let it be your declaration. Say it for the nights you wanted to hear, "I'm sorry." Say it for the days you reread old texts, hoping to find meaning. Say it loud and clear, "I became the closure." Let that be your reminder, your proof, your turning point. Show them, show yourself, show the world that the version of you who needed answers is gone, replaced by someone who creates peace, not waits for it. And stay with me, because what's coming next? That's when your silence stops just being healing and starts becoming unreachable. Let's go even deeper. You're not just letting go now, you're rising. You leveled up quietly, and that's what haunts them. They weren't scared when you walked away. They got scared when you stayed gone and started glowing without them. They thought your silence meant you were stuck, like you were somewhere in emotional limbo, just waiting for the right moment to reappear, like you'd be the same person if they ever decided to circle back. But what they didn't realize is your silence wasn't stillness. It was movement. Underground, internal, quiet, powerful. And by the time they noticed, you were already someone new, someone better, someone they don't even recognize anymore. See, people expect noise when you're healing. They expect you to prove something, post something, say something. They expect you to seek revenge with effort, with flexing, with loud declarations of, "I'm doing just fine without you." But your revenge was no revenge at all, just peace, just growth, just the silent discipline of becoming a version of yourself they can't reach anymore. It's like this. Imagine a caterpillar crawling on the ground. People see it as small, slow, simple, and then one day it disappears. It goes silent, hidden, still. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening. But inside that cocoon, everything is changing, and when it reappears, it's unrecognizable. That's what you did. They thought you were disappearing, but really, you were transforming. They'll never admit it, but they've checked. They've looked quietly from a distance. They've wondered what happened to you. Maybe they scrolled through your page. Maybe they stared at that last message, wondering why you never followed up. Maybe they thought you'd leave the door open just in case, but you didn't. You closed it. You locked it. Not out of anger, but out of evolution. And that's what gets them. Not that you left, but that you left well, that you didn't spiral, that you didn't beg, that you didn't make your comeback about them, because they expected you to fall apart, to search for validation, to collapse without their attention. But you did the opposite. You used the silence as soil. You planted new habits, new standards, new dreams, and you didn't water them with noise. You watered them with focus. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." And oh, how you labored. You didn't just move on. You worked on your body, on your mind, on your soul. While they were out there wasting time with distractions, you were building silently, day by day. They thought the distance was hurting you, but it was helping you. They thought the silence was a punishment, but it was a promotion. And here's the part they never saw coming. You're no longer reachable, not just emotionally, but energetically. You don't even live at the same level anymore. You don't think the same. You don't want the same. You don't need the same things you once did. The version of you that would have chased, gone, buried, replaced with someone who doesn't beg to be seen because they finally see themselves. There's a strange kind of pain they're feeling now, a haunting, a quiet realization that while they were enjoying their freedom, you were creating yours. And now when they look at you from a distance, they're not just seeing who you are now, they're realizing they never really knew who you were becoming. That's what Stoic payback really is. It's not getting even. It's getting elevated. It's not proving a point. It's becoming one. Your growth is the echo of your silence. Your glow is the result of your goodbyes. And your power, it's not in being louder, it's in being gone and better. So let's stamp it right here, right now in the comments. Type it like it's a badge you earned. I leveled up in silence. Say it for the you who used to explain your worth. Say it for the you who stayed too long, waiting to be chosen. Say it for the version of you that outgrew everything they once settled for. Show them, show yourself, show the world that while they underestimated your silence, you were using it to build your strength. And stay with me, because what's coming next, that's where things shift from quiet power to permanent distance, the kind they can't cross, the kind they regret. We're not done. You're just beginning. Let's keep rising. They let go, and you let them live with that. Sometimes the hardest consequence is knowing they lost the version of you that would have done anything to stay. They let you go, thinking it was no big deal. Maybe they thought it was just a break, a little space, a soft reset. They figured you'd still be around, still watching, still waiting, still quietly hoping they'd come back and fix what they broke. But you didn't cling. You didn't linger. You didn't beg for another chance to be chosen. You just let them go. And here's the twist they never expected. You never went looking for them again. That's what haunts them now. See, most people don't fear losing someone. They fear losing access. They don't panic when you walk away. They panic when they realize you're not checking anymore, when you're not responding, when you're not playing your role in their emotional theater. You used to be the one holding the line, waiting for clarity, waiting for change. But now you're not in the audience. You left the entire building. Imagine handing someone your favorite book. You say, "Be careful with this. It means something to me." They skim it, dog-ear the pages, spill coffee on the cover, and then hand it back like it never mattered. And later, when they finally decide to read it properly, when they're ready to understand it, they realize it's gone. That's what it feels like when they think you'll wait forever, but you don't. You outgrow the shelf they tried to put you on. They let you go, and now they have to live with the fact that they gambled something real for something temporary, for a fling, a distraction, their pride, their ego. Maybe it felt right in the moment. Maybe they thought walking away gave them the power, but what they didn't see was what you do with your power. The moment they stepped out, you used it to rebuild. You used it to move. You used it to rise. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy. The hardest part wasn't being left. It was not chasing. It was feeling everything in you scream for closure, for explanation, for connection, and choosing silence instead. Choosing to let them live with their decision. Choosing to respect yourself more than you craved their presence. That's the kind of strength people never see. The kind that doesn't show up in words. It shows up in who you become when no one is watching. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." And you lived that. You didn't lie to yourself to justify staying. You didn't force a connection just because it once felt good. You chose what was true, and what was true was this. They let you go. They didn't fight for you, and so you stopped fighting for them. If this spoke to you like this video, subscribe for more and share this with someone who needs to hear it.